Hello and welcome to the EduTalk series hosted by Biotone EduPartner Program, and massage industry experts. With the growing interest and popularity of the EduTalk series, Biotone continues to support virtual learning and building massage community by connecting you with industry experts who share their knowledge and expertise on topics not only for class discussion, but career success. Tonight's expert is Kelli Lene, founder of Time Well Spent Wellness Exchange, a consulting and personal development company serving the wellness industry. She's a certified ambassador for Sacred Stone Medicine and a massage therapist who's focused her 30-plus year career on integrating timeless traditions with modern clinical skills. Let's listen and learn as Kelli provides insight into staying relevant in an ever-changing consumer market. She'll explore key 2023 wellness and massage industry trends for maximizing career growth and success. She'll evaluate which trends are relevant to your practice and examine how to fine-tune and expand your resources and skills to meet consumer demand, all to help you easily understand how to be well-positioned to maximize your return on investment, both personally and professionally. And Kelli, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you have a lot to cover, so I will see you on the other side. And here you go.
Thank you, Donnell. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I haven't done this yet. So I just want to thank Donnell for doing all the work she does for this. Zoom presentations are never going to be my favorite format. I would rather be in the room with y'all and have us have that interchange. But I have come to appreciate how much work is in this, and also just how wonderful it is that we can get together and share information with the least amount of expense and trauma to our family life and our personal life. So thank you so much for Biotone for supporting us again in such a wonderful way. So I wanted to say that before I forgot. So wonderful to be with y'all again. I usually just rush through this thing trying to get all this information. I'm going to try to slow it down so that you don't feel like you've been in a whirlwind. This is a particularly favorite topic of mine because I've always taught. I was in marketing before I became a massage therapist. I've always included consumer trends in my current trends in my consulting work and also with my education work. So I think it's a very important thing to learn how to identify trends and then use critical thinking skills to determine whether or not this is something that you need to be interested in, and if it's something you need to integrate into your practice. Depending on the kind of practice that you have, if you're a business and you have therapists working for you, you have other practitioners working with you, or if you're a sole practitioner, it could make a difference. So one of the first things I want to talk about is identifying the difference between a consumer trend and an industry trend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. Everybody keep their fingers crossed. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the difference and how to identify. Okay, there we go. The difference between consumer versus industry trends. And I just have kind of a synopsis of some of the current trends we're dealing with, in both categories. So this has been going on for a little while since we started merging out of COVID, moving from a wellness to a well-being focus. You're seeing a lot of that in a lot of industry, consumer magazines, articles, blogs. You're seeing the phrase well-being, and that's one of my first clues to you is pay attention to the words that are being used and see how much frequency we're getting. So well-being is definitely something, it's not instead of wellness, but it's expanding wellness into a broader, deeper topic. Flourishing is still one of those phrases that's being used. It's coming out of some of the industry, the higher education consumers that are dealing with some studies and stuff about moving beyond just wellness to a flourishing attitude. We're also seeing with consumers, they're looking for full sensory experiences. They want a full immersion. They feel like they're coming out of a cocoon and they want to feel all the feelings. So that is a consumer trend. They're willing to invest in things like physical recovery. A lot of surgeries were put off during COVID. We're seeing a lot of knee, hip, shoulder work. So also they're looking at, when they realized how difficult it was to get treatment, some people were starting to look at more preventative work before the injury became so bad that it required surgery. So they're willing to put some money into equipment, training, and also support wellness teams to help them prevent that. We're seeing, again, huge push in the mindful and spiritual practices, which is not the same as religion. We're going to talk about that for a little while. And then workplace well-being, instead of what we are used to hearing, which is corporate wellness. And we're moving into more of a workplace well-being, because that workplace may be at home. It may be a merge between home and physical office. So that's definitely something that we're looking at and expanding and looking at. I've got a couple of what I would call my corporate wellness clients who we're starting to, they want to advance more into this whole idea about workplace well-being. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then also discovery, the idea of discovering things. One of the trends, I just finished a workshop on retreats, and one of the huge trends we talked about then is that people they're starting to travel more, but they want to travel with purpose. So they want to discover something. They want something more than just going to a new country or a different place. They actually want to discover something, experience it, and be able to bring that home. So we're going to talk about how that impacts us as therapists. Now, within the industry, we have different trends. We have technique education. So you'll suddenly see all the stuff coming forward where you see a ton of classes on cupping. Well, we know cupping's been around a while, but some people are starting to get different slants on it. So that would be an industry trend. It doesn't mean that the consumer's asking for it, but your consumers may be asking for it. So that is something you need to pay attention to. We're seeing a lot more of our more seasoned educators and presenters talking about a patient-centered approach. What does informed consent really mean? I'm just using Walt Fritz as an example. I just took his throat class, his swallowing and voice class, and he went into, he's going into a lot of detail about that, but I've seen other educators doing the same thing. So that's something we need to be paying attention to. Within our industry, we're talking about the difference. Are you a healthcare provider or are you a wellness practitioner? Where do you identify and where do you align? We're seeing a lot more membership clubs. Even for sole practitioners, they're selling memberships that guarantee the consumer so many services a month and whatever. So we're seeing some of that. Now, that is not necessarily something that consumers are pushing anymore, but within our industry, we're still pushing. Stretch academies, and we're all seeing those emerge. And again, I've had a lot of clients dip their toes in that, but my clients personally are not finding it to be very beneficial. So that's something you have to pay attention in. Is the industry trend slower at responding than the consumer trends? And have they moved on already? So in your market, you would need to know that. I see a lot of combining fitness and body work. So we're seeing a lot of people who provide fitness and physical activity classes or one-on-one who are skirting around whatever massage therapy, whatever they're calling it in their state, and they are providing some of that same kind of, along with stretching. So we're seeing some of that. So those are industry trends. We also have within our industry the World Massage Championship. It's coming from across the pond. It's actually gaining a lot of traction here in the United States. So we need to be aware of it. That may or may not be something your clients have any awareness of. That may or may not be something that you want to help make them aware of. And you may want to participate yourself. So that's an industry trend that's not yet a consumer trend, but it may bleed over. And then, of course, what we've all been dealing with is this focus on human trafficking within our industry. Whether you agree with that or not, that is an industry trend. I don't find it as much in our consumer, but they're certainly trying to make it. So there you go. So hopefully you can see a little difference between those and how they'll both impact you, but they don't necessarily impact in the same way. Okay, so long time ago, and I see some people here I'm so excited are here. We've talked about mission statements and things like that. Now I tend to go with the vision statement, which I first saw with Susan Salvo. She brought up vision statements, and I really like that because for me, the first question I ask before I do anything else is, how do I want my clients to feel when they are with me? So, and I can't answer that completely unless I know what they are dealing with and what are their yeses, what are their priorities, because I want to go beyond just what I'm doing within that session. I want to be able to support them. So, because for me, my vision statement is I definitely want to be part of their wellness team or village. So that's what I want to do. So how can I support them in their wellness journey? That's my goal. And I can't do that unless I know who they are. And so those are my big questions. And then I look at what am I already providing? What kind of training do I already have? What kind of equipment do I already own? So that I know how I can take what I'm already doing with the clients I have and make it more significant for them. And so that's for me, that's to give you an example of how that works into this. As far as the overwhelming yeses and what my clients are looking for, if your clientele, if you know who your clientele is, if you haven't decided who your dream clients are, you probably need to do that first. I know a lot of us start out in this industry in a shotgun approach. We'll work on anybody who walks through the door, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as you're starting to design your practice and what you want your day to look like and what kind of clients you want to work with and what kind of therapist do you want to work with, you need to start knowing who your clients are and who you want to work with. So we were talking about flourishing. That's a commonality that's I have with almost all of my clients, is that they have moved into this portion of their lives where they are looking to do more than survive and live. They want to flourish. And so a lot of the things that I look at need to support that. And just to give you, we've had a talk about this before with PERMA, which is just an acronym that they use with flourishing, which is positive feelings, engagement, relationships, meaning in your lives, and accomplishments. So when I take that into account, that's when I look at trends. Do they support that in some way so that we're on the same page? And I know my clients are going to respond to it. One of the big trends, I'm going to get into specific trends that I'm seeing out there and that I've seen repeated multiple times from different sources, is that the clientele, the individual client consumer, is moving from a self-care more to a caring level. And we just talked about PERMA and how that transition's happening. We've talked about moving from wellness to well-being. So all these things are feeding into each other. And this is a direct response to what happened during COVID when people had to go into deep. So one of the things that they identified is during the COVID period, and I don't mean that that's all over, but when we were in isolation, everyone really got focused on their health more as a survival mode. How do they protect themselves by being healthier? They have more time to invest in that. But they also were participating in a lot of solo activities because, whatever they were doing it on their own. And they were also predominantly self-directed, meaning they were just taking the information that they had themselves or what they could garner on the internet with some streaming services, and they took that information together. Now, some people were able to do some online coaching and those kind of things, but generally it was still pretty self-directed. They saw their wellness as a project, and what they were doing was project management. I need to have more supplements. I need to make sure my respiratory is here. I need to make sure my sanitation is here. All those things. I need to try to do something to be happy and to counter the isolation. But it was a project. And it was very mind and body focused, mental health and physical health. As we're moving into this well-being, as we got hungry for more, we went from survival mode, and what we're seeing is that they're more interested in growing as people again and expanding and not just survival, which is great for us. They're going from solo activities to a community. That's why retreats have exploded. And most of them are retreats about connection and women empowerment and, couples and those kind of things. But it is exploding all over. And that's because people are looking at connection. And what they're also seeing, what I saw from this program I just finished, was that a lot of times these people are connecting on the retreat and they're automatically signing up for another retreat to be with those same people again. So that's building community, not just to be in community, but building community. And that is something we need to be thinking about as far as wellness trends. That's going to be really important to us. And as opposed to self-directed, they're now back out again. They are gathering their wellness village, the people that are going to support them in their goals. So, a lot of my clients are working with physical therapists. They're working with me. They're working with some kind of mental therapist. They're putting their team together because they can see they can do that again. And so it's almost like from the deprivation, now they're really, really willing to invest in it, which is good for us as well. Instead of project management, which this is something I need to do for survival and to move forward and, come out of this. Now we're looking for those resounding yeses. So they're looking at, because of the sacrifice that everybody has made, they're now looking for those things that speak to their hearts and not just their minds. So they're looking at what time, time is not guaranteed. We faced loss of a lot of people we didn't expect to. And that has made an impact on what people's goals are and what it feels like to be alive. So we need to keep that in mind. So instead of just being happy, we're looking at what does it take for us to flourish? And you hear me saying that over and over again because everybody else is talking about it. So instead of just mind and body focus, we're seeing them start to really expand into a mind, body, and spirit. And we've talked about that in our industry for a long time, in our profession, about merging those together. And we're seeing that as a priority for the consumer as well. What do I mean by a resounding bigger yes? That's what you have to find out from your clients and what the clients that you want. Who do you want to market to? And who can you attract to that trend? Is you see a lot about gratitude journaling. So if you want clients that are into this, and what they're noticing is when you put things out in your reception area, when you talk to them, the things that you have around that they look at, they're looking at gratitude journals. A lot of them are doing those kind of things. And so that's what, the artwork that you use, the marketing phrasing that you use, whatever you do to influence them in any way, you want to make sure that you're using some of these same phrases and the same attitude. Great gratitude is huge right now. It's trending, gratitude. So we definitely need to work with that and be aware of it. Also, the idea of balance. Now that we're starting to move back into the office, but we're still working back at home, some people have learned a different lifestyle, a different speed, a different rhythm in their lives, and they need to seek that. They want to maintain that balance, seek it, keep it as an organic thing, and so they need that as a priority for themselves because it is still a little bit of the Wild West out there for all of us. They want to be inspired. So if we are talking about home care or self-care or whatever it is, it's not just an obligation to work out. They want to do the kind of things that make them feel, just make them feel. And then, so what that means for us in trending, what you're going to see in trending is more education marketing. And for some of us who are educators, that's a very comfortable place to be. And a lot of us over the years, because 30 years ago, we were still educating the public about what massage therapy was and why did they need it in their lives. So we're getting back into that, why you as a therapist are the best match for them, or you as a clinic, or you as a spa. What is it that you do? And it's going to be through education. And some of you had done that pre-COVID. You're very comfortable with that. And that's just going to mean, you're just going to need to step it back up. You're going to have to get back into the game. And so they're waiting, they're hungry, and they're ready for us to do that. So, and we'll talk a little bit about more of that as we come up. But one of the big things when we talked about people want to feel feelings, they want to feel, is what I've always called sensoryscaping. That means that when they come in for treatment, and their time with you is they want to feel everything. You want to hit as many of those sensory buttons as you can in a mindful way. So a lot of us forever now have known that the music that we have in our treatment rooms, that the rhythm of the music will impact the nervous system of the client, thus affecting how they feel. Okay. So if we have very fast stimulating music, the client's going to feel stimulated. If we have music that's slower than heart rate, then it's going to tend to take them down. Knowing a sensescape meaning deciding if you want to change that music as it goes down, and then towards the end, bring the crescendo back up so that they feel energized towards the end of it. We do that with a lot of different ways, but in sound, we do that. Now, color therapy, there's all kinds of science behind the color therapy. Some of you may already been doing it, but as you're designing your rooms and your space, it's worth looking at. There's a lot of ways that we can now change colors. You can change the colors in your room with LED lights. I know my sauna has a color option on it where it can actually change. I can actually program the color, again, to help with certain relaxations, stimulation, whatever you want to do. We were talking about sound. We go so far beyond that. A lot of what you're seeing right now, I've seen a lot of trending on singing bowl training and tuning forks. So that's something we're seeing a lot more classes being available for. It's definitely something to look into. It's not all that expensive an investment. And it may just be that thing that you can add to what you're already doing that really brings a client more satisfaction from the experience and more benefit. So that added value you're looking at. Also, I know a lot of them are doing things that help bring community together, drumming circles and all kinds of things. So those are all very pertinent things to the current trends. And then we're talking about the rainbow sound waves. We personally, my fiance and I have been doing some research in that, just, searching for good sleep. And so now we know, there's white noise, and we've been playing with brown noise and a combination of brown noise and pink noise. And if you haven't heard about that, brown noise tends to help you relax quicker and maybe, so that you can go to sleep easier. But pink noise helps keep you asleep. So those are some of those things that as you start to explore, and then there's green noise, there's a whole rainbow. So these are things that we can use in the treatment room instead of just music. And we're teaching clients, we're exposing them, we're helping them discover things that they may not have any experience in before that will benefit them way beyond their time in the treatment room. And here's the thing, every time something like that happens, that you are able to expose a client or that can help them discover something that benefits their overall quality of life, you will be remembered. And every time they use that or dip their toe into that again, you come back to their mind. And that's, to me, the best marketing in the world you can have. So we also have touch as a sensory, which we all know. And for us as body workers and therapists, that is such an easy thing for us to start incorporating in. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but textures and mediums, what we choose, how we touch them, quality of touch, the flow, mindful touch versus mechanical touch, so much difference. And if you've ever been to a class that really focuses on that, you know the difference. You can feel it. Any of the energy trainings or whatever, that it's obvious. And then smell. Aromatherapy and herbal therapy. I just put up aromatherapy in, but herbal therapy is equally as important. And we're starting to see more and more herbal therapy coming back as in addition to aromatherapy. And then taste. I use taste more as a lagniappe, and we're going to go into that. We talked about the sight. One of the current trends for sight and experience is called biotherapy. Now, a lot of people got in the habit of being outdoors because it was one of the few places they could escape during COVID, and they could be free, and they're carrying that with them. So an increase in the abundance of natural light, plants, organic materials, and interesting art that supports the experience. That's what you want to pull into your room and in your spaces. You want those clients to feel like they're still experiencing that freedom, because we're hooking in to what makes them feel good. Okay, so that's some of the ideas that we can incorporate that is a current trend but it's easy to incorporate into your treatment area, your spaces. We talked about sound, using sound machines, singing bowls, drums, gongs, bells, the whole thing. Chanting, guided meditation. And again, we talked about those rainbow tones. But I also want to bring up another one, which is silence, which is a particular challenge in my world, is to be quiet. But sometimes my clients need that space. They need me to hold that space for them, and they just need something away from that. So sometimes we talk about that and we have an agreement that because of the type of session they're having, the kind of support they need in their journey in that moment, all they're gonna do is they're not gonna experience sound. So I've made my students do it, but I don't do it that often in my treatment room. And I have found that it's been a really interesting and beneficial way to connect in a deeper way with my clients and the work that we do. The textures, we talked about touch, body brushing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It's quality and not just the texture. So make sure that you realize the difference between the different exfoliations if you're using it and different ways to body brush. I personally, like Biotone, has those clays and muds that you can use as a massage medium. It's a completely different texture. It's a completely different feeling, and it's really lovely. And I enjoy working with clients with that and having them experience it, and just experimenting and discovery. We're back to discovery again. The contrast we're seeing, and we'll talk a little bit about it. One of the cryotherapy is making a huge trend right now. Again, if clients dip into it, no pun intended, but they're not crazy about it, but we want those health benefits we can get from cryotherapy. So I had to look at the things that I already have at my disposal that I can incorporate in their treatments that will give them that same benefit and that same experience. So I've turned a lot to cold stones. And I'm playing with some refreshing body wraps, using things like aloe vera and cucumber gel and some menthol based stuff. I love playing with polar lotion. So sometimes it's just a contrast within, like polar lotion on the feet, the hot and cold. Those are really important. We also want to play with another way with smooth and rough stones. And like I said, even using different mediums and different temperatures on different parts of the body. Again, to help them discover what their rhythm is and flow, showmanship. Some of them, they like it to be like a dance. I mean, I've had some loamy sessions where it was like being a passive member of a ballet. It was just lovely. And so those are kind of the experiences that clients are looking for, especially if they're based in a tradition that they can connect to. And that's what we want them to do, because one of the things that we're looking for in PERMA is connection. All right, and then smells. Again, I put aromatherapy, but I really should have talked about herbal therapy as well. So, just having those diffusers in reception area, planning a customized experience and you really need to focus on what is it that client's bringing to the table so that you know what to bring to the table in response, because we meet people where they are. So I make sure that I have options for them and it supports their wellness journey. Making sure they're clear that they know that's what you're doing, so that they understand that this is the dance and that there's that deeper connection that they're getting, and that you really truly are a support of their wellness journey. Some of us are really getting into breath work, learning to guide breath work, learning it ourselves. We've always done a lot where we knew if we did vocal breathing, the client would end up starting to follow us, what it does to the nervous system, our autonomic, and how it influences and how that can change the pacing and the experience of a client. Clients want to discover. So if you want to invest in that or take the training you already have and bring it forward a little bit in emphasis, where clients are very interested in this breath work. It is a hot trend. So you want to bring it forward. It's not ever going to go away. Breath is always going to be important. But right now it's getting a lot of play. So this would be a good time if you already have the training to bring it forward in your treatment room, or possibly if it appeals to you and it speaks to your heart, that it's something maybe you could invest in getting some more work on. Affirmations along with the, if you're doing herbal work or aromatherapy work, adding those affirmations, just like they've been doing in yoga for a while, where you're laying down, and we were talking about this the other day, you're layering the experience with all these different components so that it's a fuller, deeper experience. And that's what clients are looking for. Okay. So the last one on the sensory, and remember, we're sensoryscaping. That means you're not just throwing stuff into the treatment room. You're mindfully helping to design how that client's going to experience it and how that's going to enhance the work that you're already doing. So it's very mindful. So lagniappe is a word I use a lot because it's from what I grew up with. And it's that little something extra you do to enhance the experience. Added value, but also feelings. We're back to feelings again. So like in my treatment room, I have certain treats. I keep them pretty simple. But like in the winter, I do a lot of ginger, the ginger chews and stuff, and different flavors so that clients can experiment with it. They can discover a brand they love. And again, we're back to discovery. They share with me things that they love because they know I'm always interested. And then we share it with other clients. In the summer, I love those orange peppermints. Don't judge me. I love them. And so do clients. They will come in and just grab them by the handfuls, which makes it really easy. If I ever need to think of something to give a client, I just give them a bag of those because I'm paying attention to what their yeses are. Obviously offering different kinds of teas. Again, you're helping them discover versus coffee. I never serve coffee in the treatment area. And also it's an opportunity for you to start co-marketing with other businesses. Again, my fiance and I are actually building a retreat center out in a lake near us. And we're getting to know all of the different small business owners in our area and what they're providing, whether it's a bakery or just the other day we met a young couple that's starting a kayak rental business. So this is a great time for you to start co-marketing with other businesses that are promoting everything from smoothies. And again, these are not new ideas, but again, clientele, your consumers coming forward, they're really looking for more things and they want to enjoy it and not just because it's good for them. So be looking for those opportunities to work with some of those other small businesses. One of the big trends with this is sober, curious lifestyles. And so we're talking about mocktails. So a lot of people, especially, everybody did, a lot of people did dry January, but it's starting to extend beyond that. We're seeing some of the effects that alcohol has on us, not just an addiction, but just every day with inflammation. So having that opportunity, whether you have a larger space where you can promote it, or just within your clients, sharing recipes, talking about it as a trend, it'll again layer on that connectivity that you have with them. You're showing another way to support them in their wellness goals. I will send clients, if we've talked about it in the treatment room or pre or post session, and they've mentioned that we've talked about mocktails, and I know of a place that's doing great mocktails, or I come across a recipe, I make sure I send that to them just as a way, again, to connect on their level what they're important. So some of the things we were talking about, what happened with COVID is self-care became so big. And so some clients, potential clients, certainly consumers, aren't sure they need us. I mean, they have the percussion guns and they can get the product to apply, whether it is a glute mask or a hair mask or whatever it is, they think they can do it themselves because they had to be self-reliant. So for us, in order for us to bring that forward, that yes, they need us when we're talking about this, is skillful application of our techniques and approach. So self-care is much more technical in general. So I just use body brushing as one of the examples of the difference between home care and self-care and a professional. So with self-care in general, it's much more of a technical experience, whereas if it's a professional experience, it should be much more mindful and skillful. So I want you to keep that in mind, okay? Because we're going to have to pull this forward because, again, a lot of consumers have felt like they had to become self-reliant and they got used to that. So like with body brushing, if somebody's self-caring, they've usually been taught to do circular strokes really fast. That's to exfoliate and to bring circulation. Maybe they've been taught, certainly my clients have been taught, to do it in long strokes towards the heart so that it supports the lymphatic system. So they're getting the stimulation, they're getting exfoliation, and they are getting detox. That's my client's phrases. It does help with product absorption. So if they bought product and if they body brush first, the benefit is that it can kind of clear. So what they're putting on will have a better absorption or last longer. And so that's their definition of self-care. Now, as a therapist who has a deeper understanding of physiological systems, I hope, and a lot more experience, I can do things differently for them. Okay, so I'm not just looking at exfoliating, although that's still a benefit. I'm looking for more than stimulating circulatory system, it's still a benefit. What I'm also looking is if I mindfully apply those strokes in a way that runs the lines of the lymphatic system, and I do it with a flow and a pace that supports neural raking, that I can help calm the neural system, then it is a completely different experience. Same piece of equipment, body brush, same body, but a different experience. But here's a huge part of that is I grew up with horses, so brushing to calm comes second nature to me. So I was very surprised the first time I ever went and paid somebody to have the added value body brushing before they did some other things. And I had to ask them to stop because they were so aggressive and so hard. It was not a great experience. So then I learned to teach it, to make sure that I was teaching everyone who came into my classes to be more mindful about that. Because the other thing is that where energy goes, where thoughts go, energy goes. So when you are performing these kinds of services, what the client expects and what they're going to expect more and more is this connection. Now, they may not understand that's what it's called, but they will feel the difference. If they've been with a mindful practitioner, they will know the difference and they will seek it. So make sure that you are present in that treatment room. And it's my pet peeve. And if I find you listening to an audiobook while you're supposed to be focused on me, you and I are going to have a discussion. That's it. So we want that added value of that connection. Okay. And so, yes, polyvagal. I mean, never even really heard the phrase before a couple of years ago, and now it's everywhere. Books, streamlining, classes, you name it, we've got it. Now we've got some kind of products and equipment coming out for polyvagal. So it's important that we know what they're hearing and what they know, and you need to make sure you're up on that about polyvagal because it is important. And also the next phrase I'm going to give you is neurodivergent, if you haven't heard that phrase before. We're seeing that with autistic spectrum. And by spectrum in general, you know, everyone's on a spectrum. So that's what we need to do. We need to bring that forward. And if you're dealing with any of those, look at there's all kinds of information. I know at World Massage Festival, they've actually been doing a specific training on working with neurodivergent clients, which is so important. And that's in adults and not just children. I'm going to get to a couple more trends. I'm sorry. I said I was going to take my time, but I'm taking a little too much time. All right, so trend, here we go. Full day spa. Full day at the spa is coming back. They want the full experience. They're willing to invest in it and they want it, just like traveling with purpose. Okay, so versus personal care, which is product accessibility, streaming services, how to do something, you know, their own connections with book clubs and stuff like that. They want to feel pampered, but they want to feel connected. They want the art of discovery. So all your spa enhancements, creates well-being activities that are included in your menu that is an option. Community experiences like healing circles are huge right now and getting bigger and bigger. So if you have that kind of space, or you can create that kind of co-marketing with other practitioners who do other things, then you need to look at that. If you have a way to have dedicated retreat space, you need to look at that. If not, you need to work with those who are creating retreats in your area. It's a great opportunity for you to work with them. Physical recovery, we've talked about that, the difference between home care and professional care. the percussion guns, cupping, all those kind of things. If you're going to use those things, which I highly recommend you do, make sure that you are using skillful application that is not possible for them to do at home. Okay. What they're saying is biotech tools such as red light lasers, microcurrent, all those kind of things are now going to very soon, if not already, available at home. Why do they need you? Okay, so you need to really think about that. You know, who can you work with? Who can you co-op with? If I don't want to invest in a cryotherapy tub, how can I deliver those same benefits? And like for me, right now I'm playing more with the cool wraps and cool packs and cool cold rocks and stones. Okay, the mindful and the spiritual, we talked about that difference between religion and practice. Being able to lead guided meditations in your treatment room or is a group thing, as an offering for your space, breath work, the gratitude, journaling, applied wisdom, tribal wisdom, those kind of things. People are very, very hungry and they want to discover that wisdom. And they want to do it in a respectful way. So make sure if you are offering those kind of things, you have the kind of credentials, permission, training that gives you the authenticity you need to deliver those things. Also, for a lot of us who do teaching, I personally am looking at doing it retreat style versus just a workshop because I want my clients who are actually, you know, as well, to have that kind of experience that you're hungry for, because we're talking about you as well. All right, corporate wellness versus workplace. Wellness versus workplace well-being. Corporate wellness, we were mostly focused on increasing energy levels, making sure that moods were balanced, you know, to keep the drama down, making sure the help with the mind being able to focus for long periods of time and keeping productivity higher. That was the ultimate goal. With well-being, we want, and it sounds so much alike, but it's a subtle nuanced difference, is we want to level the energy. We want to level the energy, not just raise energy levels, but we want to be able to be much more mindful and for them to be much more mindful of how they're using their energy and balanced moods. Because sometimes we do need to get, you know, focused and get energized and get excited. And then higher productivity versus productivity higher. In my treatment room, we call that sweet spot where maybe it doesn't feel great, but you know, I'm exactly where I need to be and it's doing what it's supposed to do. We call that productive. That's the client. So that's what I'm talking about, where you're matching the need to the resource. Okay. And so that's a lot of things that are going on with well-being, and that has to do with that balance as well. We talked about this need for you to become the center of discovery. People are, this is the trend, seeking truths with respect and minimal environmental and cultural impact. So we do want to discover these things, but we are becoming more and more aware of how seeking can sometimes pull things away from people who are trying to share it with us. So we're much more respectful about that now. And even in travel, they're looking at making sure that if, you know, you have a trip, that we're not changing the environment that we're trying to experience. So again, those old universal truths that we need to be aware of and bring forward and speak to with our clients and use that kind of language. Like what the mind engages, the body reflects. That's a very common thing we say in my treatment room all the time. And combining that whole idea of ancient wisdom and modern evidence, you know, we're integrating those, understanding them. Nuance versus novelty, surrender versus defeat. We're back to what the mind engages, the body reflects. Those are some things I kept seeing coming up over and over again. Sanctuary and safe space, having that safe space for a client. People want to discover more about themselves. So the more that we can help them do that, have that space for them to discover about themselves and set that pace so that they can do the discovery and we're not telling them everything. And also they want to connect and discover something bigger than themselves, be part of something bigger than themselves. So those are some huge trends that are coming forward in personal development. And then the last one you'll get if you do this, I have some resources of different people I've worked with that I feel are just right on target for helping people expand some of these practices in your treatment room so that you can meet most of these deeper, advanced relationship with your work and with your clients. And I think that's it. And I appreciate your patience. I know I went a little over, but this is so huge, and I just wanted you to know everything I know.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly, and a lot to think about, especially for incorporating into your practice. And I was thinking again about the layering aspect of it. And, you know, I'm not a therapist, but when I go in to get a massage, I mean, layering might be overwhelming on some levels, but, you know, is there, what should I say, a protocol for how you would layer? Would you start with breath? Would you, the music's already going, then would you start with breath or texture? How do you do it so that you're easing into a massage and not overwhelming the client because there's so much, I want to say, stimulus? It's
Right.
not just the massage with the music playing.
Well, you know, again, I'm going to use this phrase, and a lot of us know what this means. We're going to meet the client where they're at. So if I have a client who comes in who is obviously agitated and has shallow breathing, then I will definitely start with breath. And I will reintroduce that breath work as we start to move through the different sections of the session. So if I find that they are holding their breath, or if I find that they're starting to breathe too fast, and those of us who work with neurodivergent or we work with PTSD clients, breath is huge. We use that a lot to keep an idea about where they're at in their own neural system and their own universe. So yes, you're absolutely right. You want to take your time with that, and you certainly can't throw everything into every session. But it's all about what the client is responding to, where you see their eyes light up. A lot of us, and I certainly, because I have so many different things I can offer, I forget some things. And so I actually have some check sheets like that they can check off before they come in the treatment room with some ideas about things they would like to experience and what their goals are, so that we can discuss that in pre-session. And so we'll start to narrow down and say, okay, well, we can pick some of these for this session. And then how about next session? We'll discover and experiment with some other things. And we'll pick some of these up. So you're already pre-selling your next session. I always say a good menu at a restaurant is one where I have trouble making a decision, and I already have to decide that I'm going to come back in order to try some of the other things. So we can do the same thing.
Well, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I haven't seen any chats come in or comments, so I'd like to encourage folks to share possibly what you're doing in your practice, or ideas you may have, or questions you may have for Kelli about, let's say, incorporating herbology as opposed to just going straight aromatherapy. I mean, would that be something like the Thai herbal poultices, or is there another way to?
Well, there are so many ways. One is that we actually, I do herbal wraps. I offer herbal wraps. So sometimes having that herbal concoction just kind of steaming in my treatment room brings this wonderful, beautiful, and those of us who steam with the Thai balls and stuff, you can smell that. Or just having tea brewing is a wonderful way. This is my assistant. She just can't stand it anymore. But I will do spritzes with herbal tea that bring forward that much more subtle smells a lot of times than aromatherapy. Aromatherapy is supposed to be a whisper, but it doesn't always work that way. So that herbal wraps, herbal Thai balls, herbal spritzes, herbal compresses is a great way to bring that warmth and comfort, that connection to a client's table. So that one's really lovely to work with. And there's so many wonderful online courses now. And I know some of the local schools that are just around here are doing Master of Herbal Therapy certificates. So it is definitely a trend. We're looking for those gentler, kinder ways to work.
And it sounds like creating a unique experience for the client as well.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to ask about textures, because you had mentioned textured stones, so it's not the smooth stones. And second part of this question is, what other types of things would you use for texture?
Yeah, well, those of us who work a lot with stones, and obviously I'm a stone walker, I'm an Inyan Mani, so stones are a big part of my life, and I use them a lot in my treatment room, clinically and also for experience. And so some of the stones you get polished, and then there's also ceramic stones that people get for ease of use and stuff. But there's also the natural stone that has different textures to it, like a leathered granite. It doesn't, and some is more like a sandstone. So they're going to create a different experience when they go across the body. And so it's just bringing somebody into their body. Those of us who are experienced therapists know there's a lot of people walking around who live in their heads. But because we're trying to promote and to enhance their journey in mind, body, and spirit, we need to help them come into their body and experience it in a different way, especially people who are in chronic pain. And again, neurodivergent, we can work with them. I have some clients, I just have them place the stones because they're still uncomfortable being touched. And I work with some of those. So those are kind of things that we do with that texture. I am a big fan. I'm just going to tell you, or why would I be doing this? I'm a big fan of some of the choices that Biotone has provided for me. Jean's done such a wonderful job of keeping some of these things where they're easily mix and matched. So I will take dual purpose cream and I will mix in one of the exfoliants, and that creates this both creamy and it's like getting your back scratched just right all over your body, which is a wonderful experience. Or the microbuff. I love working with the microbuff. They're so easy to work with, and those create a different neural response. And again, bringing the client into their body, especially someone with chronic pain, it helps them have a different experience, or PTSD, where they have trouble being in their bodies and transitioning from one experience to another. They have a little trouble with that. And it's just an easy way that you can support them in that journey of learning to adapt. Different temperatures, different textures. It's just really a fulfilling way for me to do my work and be creative with the clients. And so it's just a win-win. Like I said, some of the muds, Jean, I remember a long time ago, told me, you can use these as a massage medium. Okay, they come off so easy with warm towels, and who doesn't? I mean, just the use of warm towels is such a wonderful experience and a different textural experience. I work with a lot of people pre and post. We were talking about physical recovery. One of those investments, I said, is that people who want the most out of the surgery they have, they want it to go well. And so so when somebody tells me that they're going to have knee surgery in 3 weeks, it's finally got scheduled, we'll start prepping them for that, getting everything lined up so that their rehab goes better. And then they see me as quickly as they can post-surgical. So we work with the scarring tissue. There's all kinds of training for that. And so when you see that a lot of people are getting surgeries, they're doing more and more, like I said, they were held off from getting surgeries for a long time. Now you get this flux, you're going to know you're going to have a huge impact on people who are looking at minimizing scarring. And we have techniques for that. So that's how you determine your trends, even before someone like me says, hey, it's a trend. Pay attention to what's going on in your clients' lives and what the people around you are going on. And you can pinpoint those trends.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I haven't seen any other comments or questions come in. So I want to thank you and mention our upcoming Edu Talks. April 18th, we have Stephanie Lynn Hall. She'll present on feng shui benefits for sleep health, wellness, and productivity. On May 9th, we'll have Fred Stallman present on how craniosacral therapy benefits the PTSD client. And May 23rd, we'll have Susan Salvo present on pregnancy massage through the trimesters. And what I'd like to also mention is through your talk today, I couldn't help but go back to past Edu Talks that we hosted. And the EduTalk Archive Library is on the biotone.com site. And we've had presenters with color therapy. Well, we have the upcoming on PTSD client. We've had presentations on mindfulness, on post-op massage. So there's a wealth of resource that ties into what Kelli was speaking about tonight. And I'd love to encourage you to visit the EduTalk library. Kelli has presented several past EduTalks, and I will include links to those in the follow-up email tomorrow with tonight's recording and with a copy of Kelli's handout from tonight. So watch your inbox. If you do not see it in your inbox, please check your spam folder, because often with attachments, my emails end up in spam. So Kelli, in closing.
Oh, I just want to say, somebody asked a question. I just saw it flash by, and it reminded me. In the resource list, I indicate to go to the Biotone library, the menu. They have all kinds of protocol sheets where they list the products and how to layer them in some of the ways I've been talking about. It's a great resource. We've been building that library for years and years, and there's all kinds of great menu ideas, but also some protocol sheets that tell you exactly what products to use and the application of it. So it's a great resource.
Yes, their menus, and I'll include a link to the catalog in the follow-up email as well, so that you can, and Jody, you can look into the exfoliants, the muds, the micro buff, and other products that Biotone produces. And I would say visit biotone.com, not only the EduTalk tab, but look around and look at the menus and the videos and ideas in the blogs as well. And Kelli, I can't thank you enough. You always bring good information to our EduTalks. It's wonderful to see you again, and we'll look forward to learning more about your spa and retreat center, let's put it that way. So do keep us posted and come back again. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. Keep an eye on your inbox. Join us for upcoming EduTalks and be safe. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.